All right, welcome back to the program. If you're just joining us, this is still Daybreak Africa, coming to you from the Lagos studio of KAFTAN Television. Right about now, it's time for our interview segment, and it's an open Wednesday, and it's a social day on Daybreak Africa. So we felt the need to bring in our person to talk about this topic, Westernization and its impact on the youth, with, let me say, with Jesus' joy, with all gladness. Let's welcome Racheal Abioye. Good morning.
Good morning. You're welcome. Should I do the clapping?
Really.
That's amazing.
You're welcome. It's nice having you.
Yeah.
You look like a Western lady.
Of course.
Don't we all look
Right.
None of us. So
I knew that was actually
all
coming.
of us.
Anyway, let's talk about Westernization and impact on the youth, on Nigerian youth. I don't know if you actually saw, I think there was a meme that was posted recently about, this Western way of dressing as, as a Christian, they actually try to say, if you're a Christian, this is the way you're even supposed to be dressed and all of that, And there was a lot of debate about it. So let's talk about Westernization generally. How is it for you? Like, what can you say about it?
Well, I know that when most people hear Westernization, the first thing that comes to their mind is the slavery part. And,
of course.
The negative impact
Yeah.
that it had on us as Africans. But whether we like it or not, Westernization has brought a lot of advantages to us as Africans. And it reflects in our culture,
Yes.
in our tradition, in our ways of life, in our thinking, in what we have become even today. I know a lot of us see, or most, including myself, we see Africa as that continent that has refused to grow, despite being a protege of Western culture. But then, when you look at it, you also see the other side, that even the little growth that we seem to have achieved,
Yes,
due to I think most of the accolades will go to the to Western influence. I'm not disputing that they've taken their own advantage. They've taken the advantage of us. They've taken maybe some of the things that are supposed to belong to us as Africans. But then their culture that they brought to us as a people, their education that they brought to us as a people, the reorientation that they brought to us as a people, those things are some of the things that has made us see things differently as Africans. I remember about a year ago, I saw a tweet where someone was talking. I don't know how true it is because I did not really verify, but then it sounded true because some people commented to corroborate the story. And the story said that there's a part of I think Uganda where the men, they were literally naked. They just had this very small stuff on to cover
their private
the
part.
did not cover their boobs.
Yeah, they were bare chested.
And then they now said all of them were pot belly. Now in that in that society, it's their culture to drink blood and milk. Blood and cow milk. They believe that it nourishes them,
their body.
and only men with pot
belly
are handsome. And the women, on the other hand, also enjoy to see their men compete in the drinking. Then they fight and all of that. And before you know, they were actually happy about it. And after Racheal Roberts, has gone through, or Racheal Abioye, whichever one you choose, has gone through Westernization process, I look at it
and you are like,
no, exactly.
Yes.
This is disgusting. Like, why would you want to drink blood and milk? Make it make sense. It did not make sense to me at the time. There was another time I saw another story where some women in Kenya had to be flogged to prove their love to them. And
a lot of culture and traditions like that.
Right. And to me, I'm like, why will you beat me? So and I look at it and I thought about it some time ago and said, okay, what if you were born in, say, the 15th century or 14th century? You would do exactly the same.
Exactly, you would have gotten accustomed to it here.
What you're doing is right. Although the fact remains that Westerners as well, they had their own barbaric nature in time past. We had crusaders who killed people for the gospel of Christ. We've had a lot of barbaric acts where their kings will kill their subjects and enslaved them. I was talking to someone some time ago, and the person was like, they enslaved us. It was about this Tiwa Savage's appearance.
Okay.
At
the
King Charles's coronation. And someone said, so she went back to her slave master.
Exactly.
That's in the past. Why are we pretending as if Africans did not enslave Africans before the colonizers came? There was slavery in Africa before that time.
Exactly.
The kings enslaved the people, the rich enslaved the people. People sold their children into slavery because they owed a particular amount. So the only difference is just that it's nationwide.
Exactly, and those are history we can actually go back to them. But then let's talk about culture, because you know the analysis is beginning to get so long. Yeah, now let's talk about the culture. How do you think this Westernization has really eroded our culture? Looking at taking youth, do you understand the way youth are now? We are really woke.
So I think where I would take that the response to that question from is what we popularly call bone straightened hair. Now, I think for me, that's the part that hurts me most as an African. Now, I'm not against relaxing your hair or straightening your hair, but I'm against it if you're doing it from the perception that it is better than the regular African hair. Now, I feel like Westernization played a major role in this, because there was a time that the whites themselves saw our African hair as unkept. When they see you with that coily bounce, they just, why is your hair like this? Why does it look rough? But it's not rough. It's just, maybe a lot of people's hair were rough actually, but the coiliness came from nature. That's how, there's nothing you can do about it. Once you give birth to an African child, the hair may be straight for one
eventually.
Eventually, whether you cut it or not, it becomes curly. So it's natural. Now, Westernization made a lot of people feel like if you don't wear that long straight hair, you're not woke, you're not there yet. I remember some time ago when Michelle Obama was still the first lady of the United States, she was heavily criticized because Michelle straightens her hair almost every day. I don't think you ever see Michelle with a curly African hair. Till now, I've never seen her with it. It's usually the straightened one, and people criticized that this is coming from the thought that African hair is unkept. So when you look at some of these things, you find that okay, it's not as if our culture is bad.
Yeah,
we don't necessarily have to. Yes, we don't necessarily have to erase it. Now, I don't blame white people for feeling that their culture is. I mean, if I were the one, I would also feel that their culture is better. Yes, but it's left for me to now decide what I want to accept or reject.
But don't you think it's a matter of choice? Because, you know,
of course,
you can make your choices. Because if you look at it, you know, you actually started the conversation from talking about the hair. We have a lot of things that Africans has really, you know,
thrown away.
Talk about education, music, our parents, you know, a lot of things that way. But now, nailing it back on the youth, even our fathers, our mothers, a lot of us, they'll be like, you know, sometimes you dress a certain way, and they'll be like, no, you're not going out this way. I trained you better than this, you know. And then the youth, once they have that freedom, especially, you know, probably transition from secondary school to university, you feel more. This is freedom. Freedom at last. You feel the need to want to do a lot of things. You want to experiment a lot of things, you know. A lot of people have screenshotted designs, styles that, you know, this is what I'm going to be dressed in when I get to school. But at the end of the day, if you look at the whole thing, some people will be like, you know, you don't dress this way. This is our culture. We should imbibe our culture. There was a time there was a lot of criticism about certain movies, and they were like, why are Africans doing this and all of that? So it's
to what you've just said, that I feel personally, because growing up I questioned almost everything. Despite that my dad was a pastor, I still used to ask him, why are you saying, you know, why are you saying this, why are you saying that? And I ended up drawing out my own belief, what I want to hold on to. Now, Funmi mentioned something that our parents would say, this is now our culture, this is now our tradition. But you ask yourself, what is culture? What exactly is our culture? How does culture emerge? 90% of the times, culture comes as a result of what you grasp from other cultures. It's not as if somebody just sit down and say, this is what you want to do. Now, let's make an example of Brenda Fassie. the late South African musician that sings sometimes without any top. Because in South Africa, their culture was to sing, they don't cover their breasts. That is their normal culture. In Nigeria here, there are records to show that there was a time that the culture was not even to wear anything. Then Westernization came in and brought in clothes, right?
Yes.
Which changed our orientation. Now we've claimed that new culture and said, you can't wear a open cleavage dress and say you are going out in an African home, in a Nigerian home. Your parents will be like, who born you? Where are you from? This is not our culture. But really, when you look at it, is it our culture to wear clothes?
It's really not.
So what are we saying? So
sometimes, are you trying to say sometimes we really need to drag a bit our parents' head?
No, I think that parents just need to take a chill pill and try to, and not necessarily hide under the culture part. I feel like they should hide more under sanity. What is saying?
Okay, because exactly just what I wanted to say. Okay, now if we are talking about the fact that, you know, our parents are maybe talking so much on, you know, the dressing or how we dress and all of that, then are we not throwing away the modesty part of, you know,
that's exactly
of this, you know, when it comes to dressing, when it comes to doing some other things, because we know that part of the Western culture is really not focused on modesty. We see it a lot in pictures.
No. You know, the thing about that part is that culture evolves, like I said.
Yes.
It doesn't just come once and say, okay, this is what it is. It's not static. Like they say, change is the only constant thing. So culture evolves. These Westerners that you're talking about, there was a time, I think in the 18th, 17th century, people don't walk naked. They wear, I know that, okay, I was talking to a friend of mine who wants to travel out, and he said, when his wife was telling his wife that when you get abroad, you wear trousers, you know that it's cold over there. And I was like, trouser is not the solution to cold. It was even colder when there were less people in the world. It was colder than now that we are even more. So you can't tell me that trouser is the solution. When you see their dressing, then I watch a lot of documentaries, and I watch a documentary on how they dressed in those days. How did they survive the cold? The women wore like 6 different gowns together, and then you have this ball fine shape, and you just think it's just for the fashion. It's not just for the fashion. Those things are to protect them also from the cold. So it evolves.
Because sorry to cut you. If we talk about that fashion, let's take you know, this popular Yoruba attire, this oleku. Oleku, right. You know, oleku back then, if you see, the wrapper was very short. Extremely short. It was not made that even now, we no longer wear that kind of oleku this time around because it was so
you feel
short.
Like it's not same.
Modesty then for our parents, like, where's that coming from?
Where is that coming from?
How can mommy, how can you tell me you wore this kind of...
and you're telling me about modesty? So you look at our fathers, what they really is doing now, James Brown, Bobrisky, what they're doing right now is what our fathers did with their full chest. And nobody accused them of being gay or whatever. Because I saw pictures of my own dad in heels. Marco heels. Yes, seriously, with very big trousers and keep Lagos clean trousers that will literally sweep the whole environment. But they had these very huge heels. They kept their afro bun so big and full. Nobody questioned them. But now did you get to a point where things just evolve. People start realizing that, okay, some people are probably hiding under these things and just pretending that, okay, this is how it should be. I saw what's it called? I saw a story yesterday. I saw it very briefly on Netflix, and I was like, okay, let me just go and read about it because the image was not imaging in my eyes for me to watch. So I read about those 2 ladies. They were a gay couple in the 17th century or 18th century thereabouts, and one of them had to pretend to be a man just so that they can get married. She did it successfully. They got married, but they eventually arrested her for all that crime and all of that. Now, imagine if she got away with that and she starts dressing, she just brings up a style. You think she's a man, right?
Yeah.
And then other men start copying it. And before you know, it becomes a norm, it becomes a lifestyle. So the thing about culture is that it evolves. There's very little you can do about it.
Okay, now let's talk about, you know, how woke the youth can be. And, you know, sometimes, you know, we do things to the extreme. Now, in the name of Westernization, we tend to do some things and sometimes maybe our parents, even our fellow youth, sometimes they question the guy, you know, this is just so unnecessary. Why do you have to do this? Okay, let's take this guy. There's this popular guy on Instagram that he talks. I know sometimes I tend to want to believe it's all for content creation. They feel, okay, for you to gain popularity, for you to gain the traffic you need, for you to get the audience you need, you have to do certain things. And part of it is, you know, probably as a guy, you need to dress up as a lady, because ladies, they command so much attention and all of that. So this guy talks and always, you know, there's always wet lips. He talks and
I feel like I know who you're talking about.
But a lot of people have come out to say, this guy, I know, like, this guy will be a gay guy, this guy will be this guy with that. But then I want to believe personally that it's all for content creation. But now, generally, let's just talk about the extreme ways that youth have actually imbibed this westernization of a thing, and one way or the other, it's affecting them. It's sending a negative signal to the upcoming.
Yeah, and that's why we have very terrible Gen Z.
In fact, the people, I don't know what
what's going to come after
Gen Z.
Okay, so when you look at it, the behavioral pattern of youth today and how they react to things, you realize that westernization has played a major role in the so-called wokeness that we have seemed to want to assimilate. Now you look at many people, there's now the language of I don't hold my parents anything.
Exactly. I don't give anybody any explanation.
Normally, this is Grace here. Grace, if I buy you a mobile phone, naturally, it's not like maybe I'm expecting anything, but naturally your instinct will just be indebted to me, right?
Exactly, very true.
Now imagine a parent raising you from childhood. Yes, they brought you to life, but then they could have abandoned you like some people did. But they still went through thick and thin to make, and then you come up and say, I don't, with the sense of entitlement from my parents, I don't owe anybody anything. You hear all these languages and you're like, what is going on? But as much as all these things are affecting our personality and affecting our world, because that's why we got into we found ourselves in a world where people are using other people for rituals. There's nowhere is safe. People are trying to live up to a standard.
There's a lack of contentment.
Yes, there's lack of contentment because they feel a certain pressure that is not there, because if you are not woke, if you are not wearing bone straight, you are not woke. You are not there, you are not in town, you have to be wearing a diamond ring, you have to be this, you have to be that. And the reality is that not everybody is going to become all of those things.
Of course.
However, I think I'm slightly grateful, or very grateful, for us in Africa, that our wokeness, we've not totally accepted
lost
everything. Yes, we've not totally lost it, because even the Westerners now, they are looking back and they are regretting many of the things that they've done. I'll take, for example, corporal punishment, which is beating a child in school or whatever. Western nations are now regretting saying that students should not be beaten, because one thing about such demands is that when you make it, people will ask for more. When you give a person 1 mile, they will go 10,000 miles.
Yeah.
If you tell them to walk over you, they will tell you are not sleeping enough. They will continue to make demands, and that's what has led us to teachers getting fired for scolding a child, for emotionally abusing a child. And you're like, how did we get here? Now, I saw a particular TV show, I think about 5 years ago in the UK, where this life therapist, she goes about to families to help them and their children, because it's a mess. It's an actual mess. Parents cannot control their children. And it is getting worse by the day.
I've seen a lot of parents that feel like, okay, I need to bring my kids here.
Right.
Because they need to be taught the proper way. After,
I'm saying it now, if I ever travel out, my kid can only spend maybe 5 years abroad. After 5 years, he should come and stay with grandma so that he learns how normal people live. Because when you look at what is going on over there, you see that, you realize that things have gotten really rotten. The parents have lost control and they are angry. These same parents that are angry today, they are the ones who agitated for
exactly. So you
now it's coming back. Yes, the monster they created is now coming to haunt them. So when you look at it, I see that as Africans, we still have some bit of just a fear of God, so to speak. You can see that
we are still disciplined to an
extent. You can see that now there are over 100 genders according to them.
Yeah.
A child can decide to say, okay, I'm a pumpkin, or a child can just
and
come
even
up and
if you
say,
look at it, the kind of movies they even bring out now,
right?
The
They
kind of,
try to indoctrinate us with
cartoons, the kind of cartoons that are outside now for the kids to watch. Sometimes I was telling a church member that was saying something like that. I said, see, I think what you need to do right now is that before you put on any cartoon for your child to watch,
you have to go through it.
You yourself, make sure you see it. You're able to, okay, this can pass. Because a lot of things are happening. And these kids, they are very inquisitive. The way they ask you questions, you'll be like, are you, like, where do I start from?
Now, Funmi shared a video with me, I think during the week, where a child walked in on the naked parents having sex. And the child just stood and was asking them, what are you doing? And I told Funmi, I said, this is all shades of wrong. Because if I accidentally walk in on my mom alone, I'm not talking about my parents naked. And no, I'm not talking about them having sex yet. Just my mom naked. In fact, my mom is too far-fetched. If I accidentally walk in on Grace naked, I would just go back as a child, as young as I was back then. I won't stand there and start asking, Auntie Grace, what are you doing? Questions. So you just look at it and you realize that things have gone really, really rotten.
But then on the flip side, something just popped up my head right now. So if we try to paint that same scenario, that same video I tried to share with you, with a typical African child. So let's just weigh what do you think can happen?
The mannerisms are miles apart.
So do you think an African child walking up to the parents, like making out, to just be like, okay, I think I need to go out first, then come back and question my dad? Because if you look at that video, the lady stood like
stop saying the lady.
Okay, the girl
stood more than 7 or 8.
Fine, she was startled. Whatever she saw was like, okay. But then she was like, okay, Daddy, what are you doing? And no, they started explaining. But maybe a typical African child would have
a typical African child will run out and will not come out to ask questions.
Exactly.
Probably shout.
It's just like, what's going on here? You would even be too afraid to shout. Because for you to even walk in naked, you know that the next thing your parents will tell you that, why didn't you knock in the first place? Why are you just waltzing in? And then over there they will tell you that, no, you have to be conscious.
Do you know they can actually be beaten? Such a child can be beaten by the police.
Yes. Because I've
told you several times that why would you walk into the room without knocking? Wait for a response.
So those are the things that you put into consideration before you are able to tell that, okay, these things are wrong, these things are right. A lot of these Western children, they become something else, and the demands are just
I don't know if you saw that video of a lady that the father bought a car. The father bought her a car, and then she was like, I don't like this type of car. Like, this is not my kind of car. And, she rejected it.
So how do you teach your child contentment? How do you teach your child, what's it called again? There's this other word I wanted to use. Lack of covetousness. How do you teach your child to be moderate?
And what kind of child even,
do you know how many teachers have gotten sacked?
Yeah.
In the past 5 years over school? You can't even talk to a child. A child can easily tell you that I want to be addressed as they. You can't call me she because I'm not a woman. I saw a story recently at a girls' high school where they said the child was addressed as a girl, and the teacher got fired. And one of the British TV presenters, Piers Morgan, came out to say, it's a girls' school. Why are you there? Let's even assume that you do not identify as a girl. Why are you there? And then you are insisting that you don't want to be addressed as a girl.
Okay, let's talk about moving on, and then let's talk about the mental health. This
my mental health here, my mental health there. See, even
I think we gave the mental health a lot of
too much accolades for what is not worth. Yes, we should take care of our mental health. I'm not disputing that fact. But 80% of the times, when they say it's mental health, it's just a lie.
Yeah.
It's just a lie.
Just looking for.
I think the very first time I heard that was sometime in 2008. I was watching a TV series where this black woman came out and said, if a black boy shot somebody, they will say, oh, he's mentally unstable.
Exactly.
And then the boy will escape prison. And that's just it. And it ends there. So it's just I don't want to use the B word, but it's an actually B explanation for whatever it is they're doing. We should learn culture. We should not allow this, because even in Westerners, I think
exactly. I think we should just be able to strike a balance. Because now talking about that corporal, talking about that corporal punishment you mentioned, you know, I think there's this corner now when they want to punish kids now, you know, you don't scold them, you don't shout at them, you don't beat them. They call it something corner. I've forgotten the word. Just go to the something corner.
And then go and sit there.
And then sit there.
So what happens? You see the problem
start thinking about what he or she has done.
The problem with that. I do not support corporal punishment, but I strongly believe that there are some children that if you apply corporal punishment to them, maybe once in a year,
to reset
their brains.
And then probably balance the mental health.
Yes, probably. But I do not agree with corporal punishment. But then, if you want to scold a child, I think in them, at Portugal or so, they beat only boys. And there's a book, there's a record where they write it. It must not be more than 3 strokes of cane.
Wow.
And there's a number of times that you can beat within a space of a month. So there are those rules.
I think they follow that part of the Bible that says girls are the weaker vessels. So I think it should be the stronger one.
Right.
Anyway, thank you so much, Racheal Abioye.
But you know, many youths won't agree with.
Of course, that's why we don't need to. I don't need to agree with this conversation, because I hope she's safe right now, because I don't know what will happen if she leaves the studio. But then, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I had an amazing time with you. All right, viewers, this is where we'll draw the curtain on the interview segment. We take a quick break now. Daybreak continues shortly.